The Gospel of John refers to Jesus as I am 7 times. I know we read from the Gospel of Matthew, but bear with me for a second. So John refers to Jesus as I am 7 times. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door, the good shepherd, the resurrection and the life, the way, the truth, and the life, the true vine. And in other places, simply as I am, without a predicate, just that, I am. The Gospels were written in Greek, and in that language, here's how you say I am. Ego. For we who speak English, that makes this week's readings, at least I think, particularly difficult, because it seems to be saying that the God incarnate who calls himself ego is preaching to us about egolessness, about denying oneself. For example, when Peter says, God forbid, no such thing shall ever happen to you. Indeed, I'm sure there's a piece of him that wants the best for Jesus and is worried about Jesus's life and well-being. But at the same time, don't you kind of sort of think he wants the best for himself too? He wants the power that he dreams will come from hopping on the Jesus bandwagon. So that bandwagon had better be headed in the direction of power and fame. Peter's not the only one. James and John asked to be seated on Jesus's right and left hands. And I confess that I too, sometimes, perhaps more often than I like, struggle to tread that fine line between my deep desire to serve God and follow God's will on the one hand, and on the other hand, my desire for my own personal achievement. I confess this. I want to hear it said of me, well done, good and faithful servant. But Jesus seems to be saying that ambition gets in the way. It's an obstacle to God's will for the world, and sometimes even does harm. And when I think of it that way, I do see examples of that. Humans have flattened mountains, dammed rivers, overused the planets, adjudicated immigration such that it ruins people's lives in the process. So when Jesus says, get behind me, Satan, he speaks to all of that. He says, okay, Peter, you're trying to get in front. You're trying to make me follow you, but I tell you, come, get behind me, follow me, not the other way around. Be not afraid. I go before you always. And so, my sisters and brothers, when I, in my hurry to get something done, neglect to honor the moment, the Christ in the person, to make eye contact, or to pause long enough to consider whether I'm following the way of Christ or not. Perhaps I'm just trying to manipulate my own version of Christ. God has indeed been enticing us, seducing us, duping us to follow this path of service since the time of Jeremiah and before. God enticed St. Paul, and through him the Romans, to refrain from conforming to whatever's going on in the moment, but rather to be transformed by the renewal of mind to discern the will of God and not my own will. God sings to us in the Psalms and beckons us to cling to none of that but God alone, God and God alone.